The morning sun peeked through the cracks of an old window, casting faint golden lines on the dusty floor. Inside a small, cluttered tailoring shop sat a man in his late 30s, carefully threading a needle. His name was Ravi, a tailor who once dreamed of owning the finest boutique in the city. But dreams have a strange way of testing the people who hold them tight. Ravi's tiny shop stood at the corner of a busy street, squeezed between a tea stall and a mobile repair shop. The signboard that once shined with bright colors was now faded and chipped. People hurried past his shop every day without a glance. Only a few old customers still came by, mostly for minor stitching or patchwork. Yet every morning Ravi opened his shop with the same hope, that maybe today would be different. He had once worked under a famous tailor in the city, known for designing clothes for film stars and politicians. Back then, Ravi's hands moved confidently across silk and velvet, measuring, cutting, and stitching like an artist painting his dream on fabric. He had saved every bit of his earnings to open his own place. For a while, business went well. His work spoke for itself, clean lines, perfect fitting, every button in place. Customers loved his honesty and his skill. But times changed faster than Ravi could keep up. Big clothing brands opened nearby, offering ready-made suits at prices that looked too good to be true. People began to prefer shiny showrooms over small tailor shops. Slowly, Ravi's customers disappeared one after another. Within months, the laughter and chatter that once filled his shop were replaced by silence. Bills piled up. Rent increased. Machines broke down. He sold his extra sewing table to pay for fabric. Even the neon light outside, which proudly spelled Ravi Tailors, flickered one last time before dying out completely. Still, Ravi refused to close shop. Every day he stitched with quiet patience, believing that good work always finds its way back. He lived alone in a small room above the shop. His meals were simple, mostly rice and lentils, but his dreams were stitched with hope. One chilly morning, as Ravi unlocked his shop, he noticed something. The street felt quieter than usual. Shops were opening slowly, and a few vendors were setting up their stalls. He took a deep breath and sat down at his old sewing machine, its wheel creaking like an old friend complaining about age. He smiled faintly and began his day, humming softly while he worked on a torn blouse for a customer who promised to pay next week. By noon, his stomach growled. He reached for a small steel box near his stool and opened it. Inside was a folded chapati and some pickle. As he ate, he looked out the window. Across the road, people in neat suits walked into a new cafe that had just opened. He noticed their laughter, their polished shoes, their confidence. For a moment, he wondered what life would be like if he had taken a different path, maybe a steady job in a factory or a store. But then he looked at his hands, rough and strong, shaped by years of sewing. These hands had given life to thousands of garments. "This is what I do," he whispered, "and I'll keep doing it." After lunch, a woman came in with a pile of clothes. She asked for quick alterations, but then tried to bargain for half the price. Ravi smiled politely, as he always did, and agreed. It wasn't about profit anymore. It was about survival. When the woman left, Ravi leaned back and stared at the ceiling fan slowly spinning above. His thoughts wandered to his family. His parents lived in a small village, proud of their son, though they didn't know how tough things had become for him. He often told them business was fine, not wanting them to worry. The afternoon dragged on. The sound of the sewing machine was the only thing that filled the silence. The steady rhythm of the needle going up and down had become like music to Ravi. Each stitch was a reminder that he still had something to offer. As the sun began to set, the golden light fell on the rolls of fabric stacked in the corner, some bright, some dull, all waiting for a story to be sewn into them. Ravi gently covered his machine with a cloth and stepped outside. The street was alive again, with people heading home, cars honking, and the smell of roasted corn filling the air. He stood there for a while, just watching. He often wondered if anyone noticed him. The quiet man who spent his days fixing other people's clothes but could barely mend his own broken life. Yet even in his loneliness, there was something peaceful about his routine. He believed that every day, every small effort was a step toward something better. Later that night, as he closed the shop and climbed the narrow staircase to his room, he saw his reflection in a cracked mirror. His shirt had faded and his eyes showed years of struggle, but there was still a gentle spark in them, a stubborn kind of hope. He sat on his bed, counting the few notes he had earned that day. It was just enough to buy groceries and pay part of his rent. He sighed but didn't complain. He thought about how the city seemed to move faster each year, while he remained in the same small corner, sewing lives back together one thread at a time. People came and went, fashion changed, but his skill, his passion for detail, stayed constant. Maybe one day, he thought, someone will see my work and remember what real craft looks like. The next morning he woke up early again. It was cloudy and the air smelled of rain. He made tea on his small stove, sipped it slowly and smiled. Another day, another chance, he said softly. He wore his cleanest shirt, combed his hair, and went downstairs. As he opened the shutter, the first drops of rain began to fall. He quickly pulled the cloths and fabric rolls inside to keep them dry. He was adjusting a mannequin by the window when he heard a strange sound, the screech of tires stopping suddenly. Looking outside, he saw a black luxury car parked right in front of his shop. He frowned, surprised. It wasn't common to see such expensive cars in this part of the street. The door opened and a man in a dark gray suit stepped out, looking upset. The rain had picked up and he rushed under the small shade in front of Ravi's shop. Ravi instinctively reached for an old towel and offered it to the man. "Please, sir, dry yourself," he said kindly. The man nodded, clearly in a hurry. As he wiped his face, Ravi noticed the fine fabric of his suit, pure Italian wool, the kind he had only seen in magazines. But one thing caught his eye, a small tear near the shoulder seam. The man was talking on his phone, sounding tense. "I can't walk into that meeting like this," he said. "It's already starting." Ravi hesitated for a second, then spoke up gently. "Sir, if you want, I can fix that for you right now. It will only take a few minutes." The man looked at him, a bit unsure. "You, here?" Ravi smiled. "Yes, sir. I may not have a big shop, but my hands still work just fine." There was a brief silence as the man glanced around the small shop. The old machine, the fabric scraps, the humble atmosphere. Something about Ravi's calm confidence made him nod. "All right. Please be quick," he said, taking off his jacket. As Ravi held the torn suit in his hands, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. A spark. The fabric was rich, smooth, and heavy. The kind of material only skilled tailors were trusted to touch. He turned on his machine, the motor humming softly, and began to work. Each movement was careful yet fast. His fingers knew exactly what to do. The man watched quietly, perhaps expecting clumsy work. But what he saw instead was precision, pure, graceful skill that came from years of experience. The sound of the rain mixed with the rhythmic tapping of the needle. The atmosphere inside the shop felt strangely peaceful. For the first time in months, Ravi forgot his worries. It was just him, the fabric, and the familiar rhythm of creation. Within minutes, the tear was gone, perfectly hidden, as if it had never existed. Ravi pressed the jacket lightly and held it out. "All done, sir." The man took it, examined it closely, and blinked in disbelief. The repair was flawless. He put it on, turned in the mirror, and couldn't even find where it had been torn. "This is incredible," he said softly. Ravi smiled, wiping his hands on his apron. "Just good old-fashioned tailoring, sir." The man stared at him for a moment, something thoughtful in his eyes. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and placed it on the counter. "Come see me tomorrow morning," he said. "I want to talk to you about something." Before Ravi could say anything, the man left, stepping back into the rain. The black car drove away, leaving behind a small puddle and a heart full of questions. Ravi picked up the card and read the name printed in bold letters. His eyes widened. It was the CEO of one of the biggest fashion companies in the country. He stood there frozen for a moment, staring at the card. The rain outside turned heavier, drumming softly on the tin roof. Slowly, a smile spread across his face. A quiet, humble smile that carried both disbelief and hope. For the first time in years, Ravi felt that something had changed. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but deep down he knew one thing. His life was about to take a turn he could never have imagined. That night, Ravi barely slept. He lay on his small bed staring at the ceiling, the business card resting on the table beside him. The name printed on it glowed faintly under the yellow bulb. He had seen that name before in newspapers, on billboards, in magazines. The man he met today wasn't just a businessman. He was one of the biggest names in the fashion industry. Ravi turned on his side and looked at the card again. His heart raced a little. What did the man want from him? Why did he ask to meet? Maybe he just wanted another suit repaired. Or maybe, he thought with a hesitant smile, maybe it was something more. He closed his eyes, but his thoughts wouldn't stop. His mind kept replaying the scene. The moment the man looked at the repaired suit, the surprise on his face, the respect in his tone when he said, "Come see me tomorrow." By morning, Ravi had made up his mind. Whatever the reason, he was going. He woke up early, cleaned his small shop, and polished his old shoes. He didn't have fancy clothes, but he made sure his shirt was ironed neatly and his hair was combed properly. He wanted to make a good impression. After a quick breakfast of tea and biscuits, he slipped the business card into his pocket and stepped out. The air was cool and fresh after last night's rain. The streets were already busy, filled with honking cars and people rushing to work. Ravi took the local bus, holding tightly onto the overhead rail as it rattled through the city. He looked out of the window, watching the tall buildings and glass offices pass by. Each stop brought him closer to a part of the city he had only dreamed of visiting, the business district, where men in suits and women in high heels walked confidently, phones pressed to their ears. When he finally reached, he stepped off the bus and looked up. The building was enormous, with mirrored glass walls reflecting the blue sky. The name of the company shone in bold silver letters above the entrance. He felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. He had stitched clothes for years, but walking into a place like this felt like entering another world. Gathering courage, he walked up to the reception desk inside. A young woman smiled politely and asked, "How can I help you, sir?" Ravi showed her the card and said softly, "I was asked to meet Mr. Mehta. He told me to come today." The woman glanced at the card and nodded. "Please wait a moment," she said, then made a quick phone call. After a short pause, she smiled again. "You can go to the 10th floor. Someone will meet you there." Ravi thanked her, his palms slightly sweaty, and stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, he could see his reflection, simple clothes, worn shoes, but eyes filled with quiet determination. The elevator opened to a large, modern office space filled with people typing on computers and talking softly. A man in a neat uniform greeted him and led him to a private cabin. "Please wait here. Sir will be with you shortly," he said. Ravi sat on a leather chair, feeling small in the big room. The walls were decorated with framed photographs of models wearing elegant suits and dresses. One picture caught his eye. A young tailor working on a suit, needle in hand just like him. Something about it made him smile. After a few minutes, the door opened and Mr. Mehta walked in, looking as sharp as ever. His presence filled the room, but his expression was warm. "Ah, Ravi, I'm glad you came," he said, extending his hand. Ravi stood quickly and shook his hand a little awkwardly. "Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling me." "Please sit down," Mr. Mehta said, taking his seat across the desk. "I couldn't stop thinking about your work yesterday. That repair you did, it was flawless. Honestly, my in-house team couldn't have done it better." Ravi smiled shyly. "It was just a small fix, sir." Mr. Mehta leaned forward slightly. "It wasn't just a small fix. It showed skill, precision, and passion. I meet many people in this industry, Ravi, but very few still care about the art of tailoring the way you do." Ravi didn't know what to say. Compliments like that were rare in his life. "Thank you, sir. I just try to do my best," he said softly. Mr. Mehta nodded. "Tell me something. How long have you been a tailor?" "Almost 15 years now, sir. I started learning when I was 16. My father was a farmer, but I was always more interested in clothes. I used to watch the village tailor, and one day he let me try stitching. After that, I never stopped." Mr. Mehta listened carefully, his face thoughtful. "You know," he said after a pause, "this industry has changed a lot. Machines do most of the work now, and people care more about speed than skill. But when I saw your work, it reminded me of something important, that real craftsmanship still matters." He got up and walked toward the window, looking out at the city below. "I built this company from nothing, Ravi. I know what it means to struggle. I saw the same fire in you yesterday." Ravi looked down, unsure how to respond. He had never imagined that someone like this would speak to him with such respect. Then Mr. Mehta turned back to him and smiled. "I want to offer you something. How would you like to work with us as part of my design team?" For a moment, Ravi froze. He blinked, wondering if he had heard right. "Work out with your company?" he repeated quietly. "Yes," Mr. Mehta said, nodding. "We're launching a new line of handmade suits, something that focuses on traditional craftsmanship." I need people who understand real tailoring, people who can teach the younger designers what true precision looks like. I think you're the right person for it. Ravi's mouth went dry. His mind raced with thoughts. His tiny shop, his broken machine, his unpaid rent. Could this really be happening? Sir, he said slowly, I don't know what to say. I never expected something like this. But I don't have fancy tools or training. I just know how to stitch, Mr. Mehta smiled. That's exactly what I want. Someone who knows how to stitch with heart. Don't worry about the rest. We'll handle that. You'll get proper equipment, a good salary, and most importantly, a team that respects your skill. Ravi sat silently for a moment. He could feel tears forming in his eyes, but he quickly looked down, trying to hide them. Sir, I've worked my whole life hoping someone would notice. Thank you for seeing me. Mr. Mehta walked over and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Talent doesn't need to shout to be seen. Ravi, it just needs one person to recognize it. The rest of the meeting went by like a dream. Mr. Mehta introduced him to the head of the design department, who showed Ravi around the workshop. The space was filled with rolls of fine fabric, sewing machines, and young designers working on patterns. Ravi felt like he had stepped into another world, one filled with color, creativity, and opportunity. When he touched the fabric samples, he could feel the quality. Smooth, rich, perfect. He explained a few stitching techniques to one of the designers, who listened with interest. For the first time, Ravi realized that his knowledge, something he had learned through years of quiet hard work, was valuable. As he left the office later that afternoon, Mr. Mehta shook his hand again. Take a few days to think about it, he said. If you decide to join us, come back next week. The position is yours, Ravi nodded, still overwhelmed. Thank you, sir. I will. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. He walked slowly, holding the company brochure in his hands. The city looked different now, warmer, more welcoming. Every step he took felt lighter, filled with a strange new hope. On the bus ride home, he couldn't stop smiling. He looked out of the window, imagining his future. For the first time in years, he wasn't worried about tomorrow. He was thinking about possibilities, the kind he had long forgotten to dream about. When he reached his shop, he opened the shutter and looked around. The same old machine, the same faded walls, but everything seemed to have a new glow. He ran his hand over the machine gently. We did it, old friend, he whispered with a smile. Maybe our time has finally come. He spent the rest of the evening cleaning the shop, organizing fabrics, and even fixing the light that hadn't worked for months. He wanted it to look alive again, just in case Mr. Mehta ever visited. As night fell, he sat by the window with a cup of tea. The street outside was quiet, but his heart was full of noise, the sound of hope, excitement, and gratitude. He thought about his journey, from stitching torn clothes for a few coins to being offered a place in one of the biggest fashion companies. It all started with a small act of kindness, helping a stranger in need. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was clear. This was not the end of his story. It was only the beginning. And somewhere in the distance, as the city lights shimmered, Ravi silently promised himself that he would make the most of this chance. Not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever believed that good work, honesty, and kindness still matter in this fast-changing world. The next few days passed slowly for Ravi. Each morning he opened his small shop like usual, but his mind kept drifting back to the meeting with Mr. Mehta. The offer felt like a dream he was afraid to wake up from. Sometimes he would pull the business card out of his pocket just to make sure it was still real. He didn't tell anyone at first. He wanted to be sure before he said anything. What if it was too good to be true? What if something went wrong? But every time he remembered the kindness in Mr. Mehta's eyes, he felt a sense of peace. By the end of the week, Ravi had made his decision. It was time to take a chance. He closed his shop early that evening and sat at his sewing table, running his fingers over the old machine that had been with him through every struggle. You've been my only partner all these years, he whispered softly. But maybe it's time we both move forward. The next morning he wore his cleanest clothes again and caught the same bus to the company's office. His hands trembled slightly as he stepped through the glass doors, but his heart was steady. He was ready. At the reception, the same woman smiled when she saw him. Good morning, sir. Mr. Mehta is expecting you, she said. Ravi followed the same path up to the 10th floor. This time, he noticed the details he had missed before. The sound of laughter from the design team, the bright fabrics laid out on large tables, the hum of sewing machines in the background. It was a different world, but it smelled familiar, of fabric, thread, and creativity. When he reached the cabin, Mr. Mehta stood up with a wide smile. "Ravi, I was hoping you'd come," he said, shaking his hand warmly. "Welcome to the team." Ravi's eyes lit up. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Mr. Mehta replied. "Come, I'll introduce you to everyone." He led Ravi to the main workshop. The room was filled with young designers, tailors, and assistants, all working together in perfect rhythm. Mr. Mehta called out, "Everyone, this is Ravi. He's joining us as our senior tailor and craftsmanship advisor. You'll learn a lot from him." The team turned to look at Ravi. Some smiled politely while others exchanged curious glances. Ravi gave a small nod, feeling both proud and nervous. He wasn't used to being introduced with such respect. One of the designers, a friendly young man, came forward. "Welcome, sir. We've heard about your work. Can't wait to learn from you," Ravi smiled. "Please don't call me sir. Just Ravi is fine. I'm still learning myself," he said with humility. Mr. Mehta chuckled. "That's the right spirit. All right, everyone, back to work. And Ravi, let's get you started." He was given a small workspace near the main design table. It had everything: new machines, fine needles, premium fabrics, and a comfortable chair. Ravi touched each item carefully, almost like a child seeing toys for the first time. He had never worked in such a well-equipped environment. Soon after, one of the junior designers brought over a half-stitched suit. "Sir, can you check this?" "The shoulder fitting looks off," she asked. Ravi examined it for a few seconds, then picked up a chalk and marked a small line. "You've cut this half an inch too high. See? That's why it looks tight here. Always let the fabric fall naturally before stitching." The young woman nodded, amazed. "Oh, I didn't notice that." "Thank you, sir." Ravi smiled gently. "It's okay. You'll get better with time. Tailoring is like listening to the fabric. It tells you what it needs." As the day went on, more people came to him for advice. He showed them how to handle delicate fabrics, how to make invisible seams, and how to finish edges neatly. His calm nature and deep understanding of his craft began to impress everyone. During lunch, a few designers invited him to join them in the cafeteria. He hesitated at first, not wanting to feel out of place, but they insisted. Soon, he was sitting at a bright table surrounded by laughter and chatter. He listened more than he spoke, but his quiet presence made people feel comfortable. One of the designers asked, "Ravi, have you ever made a suit from scratch for a big client?" Ravi smiled faintly. "Not for anyone famous, but I've made suits for people who needed to look their best for small moments. A groom who could barely afford fabric, a student going for his first interview, a man meeting his parents after years. For me, every suit is important, no matter who wears it." The table went silent for a moment, touched by his words. Then someone said softly, "That's beautiful." When he returned to his workstation, he found Mr. Mehta waiting for him. "How's your first day going?" Ravi nodded. "Good, sir. Everyone is kind. I'm learning a lot," Mr. Mehta smiled. "That's what I like to hear. Listen, there's something special I want you to work on. We're designing a new collection, limited edition handmade suits. I want you to handle one of the prototypes. It'll carry your name." Ravi's eyes widened. "My name?" "Yes, the Ravi collection," Mr. Mehta said proudly. "It'll represent traditional craftsmanship, pure handwork, no shortcuts. What do you think?" Ravi was speechless. His hands shook slightly as he tried to respond. "Sir, I don't know if I deserve that honor." "You do," Mr. Mehta said firmly. "You've earned it with your work. Start tomorrow. Take your time, make it perfect. We'll showcase it at our next event." That night, Ravi couldn't stop smiling. When he returned home, he placed his small bag on the table and sat quietly, letting the moment sink in. He looked at the ceiling, whispering, "Thank you." Over the next few days, Ravi poured his heart into the project. He chose the fabric carefully, a deep navy blue wool blend with a soft texture. Every cut, every stitch, every line mattered. He worked with the same patience and care he had always shown. But now his work carried a new purpose. The younger designers often gathered around to watch him work. He would explain each step, how to align the seams, how to balance the shoulders, how to make the collar sit perfectly. "Don't rush," he would say gently. "Suits are not just clothes. They are confidence stitched together. When someone wears your creation, it should make them feel proud. As days turned into weeks, the suit began to take shape. When it was finally done, the entire team gathered to see it. The fit was flawless, the detailing elegant, and the finish looked like something straight out of a luxury catalog. Mr. Mehta walked around the mannequin, examining every inch. Then he looked up at Ravi with admiration. This is exactly what I hoped for, he said. You've captured the soul of craftsmanship. The team applauded, and Ravi's eyes filled with emotion. He had never been applauded before, not like this. All those years of quiet struggle suddenly felt worth it. Mr. Mehta clapped him on the shoulder. We're going to present this at the upcoming fashion event. And Ravi, I want you to come with us. You'll be standing beside this masterpiece when we reveal it. Ravi felt his throat tighten. Sir, I've never been to such an event. I don't even have clothes for it, Mr. Mehta smiled warmly. Don't worry about that. We'll make sure you look just as sharp as your suit. That evening, the entire workshop buzzed with excitement. Everyone was talking about Ravi's design and how incredible it looked. Some of them even asked if they could take lessons from him on weekends. Ravi, in his usual humble tone, agreed to teach whoever wanted to learn. When he returned home that night, he looked around his tiny room again. The same walls, the same single bulb, the same old bed. But it all felt different now. He wasn't the struggling tailor anymore. He was part of something bigger, a place where his talent was finally seen and appreciated. Before sleeping, he took out a small notebook where he used to jot down measurements and ideas. On a blank page, he wrote a single line. Hard work never goes unseen. It just waits for the right eyes to notice. The next morning, as he entered the office, the team greeted him with warm smiles and waves. He sat at his table ready to begin another day, not out of survival this time, but out of love for his craft, and deep down, Ravi knew this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. The week of the fashion event arrived faster than Ravi could believe. The entire office buzzed with excitement. Designers rushed to finish their last touches. Tailors pressed freshly made suits, and assistants carried fabrics from one room to another. Everywhere Ravi looked, there was color, energy, and purpose. For him, this event wasn't just another show. It was a moment that could change his life forever. His suit, the one he had crafted by hand, was chosen to represent the company's new luxury collection. The idea that hundreds of people would see it, maybe even the media, made his heart race with both pride and nervousness. Mr. Mehta personally checked in with him every day. Ravi, the event is going to be grand. Don't be nervous, he said with a reassuring smile. Your work will speak for itself. Ravi nodded. Thank you, sir. I just hope everything goes well. It will, Mr. Mehta said confidently, because good work always shines through. On the morning of the event, Ravi woke up before sunrise. He couldn't sleep much the night before. He kept imagining the lights, the crowd, and the moment his design would be unveiled. He ironed his shirt carefully and put on the new suit the company had tailored for him. It was the first time he had ever worn something so fine. As he looked in the mirror, he almost didn't recognize himself. The man staring back looked confident, composed, and proud, a far cry from the struggling tailor who once worried about paying rent. He reached the venue early with the company team. The hall was huge, decorated with elegant lighting, banners, and a long runway. People from the fashion industry were already arriving: photographers, reporters, stylists, and business executives. Ravi quietly followed behind his team, taking in every detail with wide eyes. Backstage, the models were getting ready. Some were trying on suits, others were having their makeup done. One of them approached Ravi holding the navy blue suit he had designed. Sir, this one's yours, right? The model asked politely. Ravi nodded, smiling. Yes, please be careful with it. Every stitch has a piece of my heart in it, the model chuckled softly. Don't worry, I'll wear it with pride. Ravi adjusted the collar and checked the fitting once more. It was perfect. The way the suit fell across the shoulders, the neat line of buttons, the smooth curve of the lapel, everything was just as he had imagined. A few minutes before the show began, Mr. Mehta walked over. You ready? He asked. Ravi took a deep breath. Yes, sir. I think I am. Good, Mr. Mehta said. After the presentation, I want you to come up on stage. People should know the face behind this masterpiece. Ravi's eyes widened. Me on stage? Of course, Mr. Mehta said with a smile. You deserve it. As the lights dimmed, music filled the hall. The show began. Model after model walked down the runway in elegant suits and dresses. The audience clapped, cameras flashed, and the energy in the room rose with every step. Ravi watched from backstage, his hands clasped tightly. Then came the moment he had been waiting for. The announcer's voice echoed through the speakers. And now, presenting a special piece from our upcoming handmade collection, a design created by our very own craftsman, Ravi. The crowd turned their eyes to the runway as the model stepped out wearing Ravi's suit. Under the lights, the navy blue fabric shimmered softly. Every stitch, every curve, every detail looked alive. The audience murmured in admiration. Some even leaned forward to get a closer look. Ravi stood frozen, watching his creation come to life in front of hundreds of people. His heart felt heavy with emotion. For years, his work had gone unnoticed in a small street corner, and now it was being admired by the finest eyes in the industry. When the model reached the end of the runway and turned, the applause began. Soft at first, then louder and louder until the entire hall was filled with clapping. Mr. Mehta turned to Ravi, smiling widely. "Go," he said. "It's your moment." Ravi hesitated. "Sir, I've never—" "Just go," Mr. Mehta said gently. "You've earned it." Taking a deep breath, Ravi stepped onto the stage. The lights hit his face, and for a moment everything went quiet. The crowd didn't know who he was at first, just a simple man in a neat suit, walking nervously but with pride. Then the announcer said, "This is Ravi, the craftsman behind the masterpiece you just saw." The applause grew again, this time louder, more personal. Some people even stood up. Ravi bowed slightly, feeling tears prick his eyes. He never imagined such a day would come. After the show, several people came up to him, shaking his hand and congratulating him. "Your work is amazing," one designer said. "You've brought real craftsmanship back into fashion." Another person, a journalist, asked, "How long have you been doing this?" Ravi smiled humbly. "Almost all my life. I started with small jobs, just stitching and repairing, but I've always loved what I do." When the journalist asked what inspired him, Ravi paused. "When people wear clothes made by me, I want them to feel proud. Not just because it looks good, but because it's made with care. That's my inspiration." Later that evening, there was a small celebration at the company's booth. The team was overjoyed, and everyone congratulated Ravi again and again. Mr. Mehta raised a glass and said, "To Ravi, the heart of our new collection. May this be the beginning of many great things." The whole room cheered. Ravi's eyes filled with emotion again, but this time they were tears of joy. While everyone talked and laughed, a man in a suit approached Mr. Mehta quietly. Ravi didn't hear what they were saying, but after a few minutes, Mr. Mehta turned to him and said, "Ravi, there's someone who wants to meet you." A tall gentleman stepped forward holding a business card. "Hello, Ravi. I'm the director of an international fashion brand. We're very impressed with your work. Would you be open to collaborating with us?" Ravi was stunned. "Me collaborate?" "Yes," the man said with a smile. "Your craftsmanship is rare. We'd love to feature your designs in one of our collections." Ravi didn't know how to respond. His hands trembled slightly as he took the card. "Thank you, sir. I'm honored," he said softly. Mr. Mehta placed a hand on his shoulder. "See? I told you. When talent is real, the world will notice." After the event, as the crowd slowly left and the lights dimmed, Ravi stayed behind for a moment. He stood alone near the runway, looking at the spot where his design had been showcased. It felt unreal. Mr. Mehta joined him quietly. "You know, Ravi," he said softly, "when I first came to your shop that rainy day, I didn't expect much. But sometimes life brings us lessons in unexpected ways. You reminded me that true art doesn't need a fancy address and it only needs honest hands." Ravi smiled gently. "And you reminded me that kindness still exists in this world, sir." They both laughed quietly. As they walked out together, Ravi looked up at the night sky. The city lights twinkled above, but his heart felt brighter. He thought of his old shop, his broken machine, the lonely nights he had spent stitching by dim light. All those years of patience, struggle, and faith had led to this moment. When he reached home, he placed the event pass on his table beside the old needle he had used for years. One symbolized his past and the other his future. He sat down and closed his eyes, whispering, "Thank you, life, for not giving up on me even when I almost gave up on myself." The next morning, his neighbors saw him leaving home with a quiet smile. He didn't brag or boast about his success. He still greeted everyone the same way, still stopped to help an old man lift his bag, still lived simply. But there was something different about him now. A calm confidence, the kind that comes from knowing your worth. Back at the office, the company had received dozens of calls praising the new collection. Orders were pouring in and everyone was busy. Mr. Mehta called Ravi into his cabin. "Ravi," he said, "we've decided to launch a permanent line under your name. You'll lead a small team and train them. You'll be in charge." Ravi was speechless. "Sir, I don't even know how to thank you." "Just keep doing what you do best," Mr. Mehta said. "And remember, no matter how big we grow, never lose the honesty that brought you here." Ravi nodded. "I won't, sir. That I promise." He left the cabin, his eyes slightly wet, his heart full. As he sat at his new workstation, surrounded by young tailors eager to learn from him, he smiled. The journey that began with a torn suit had brought him here, to a place where his hands, his patience, and his belief in good work had finally found their rightful place. And though life had tested him many times, Ravi had learned one simple truth. When you put your heart into your work, it doesn't just mend fabric, it mends your destiny too. The weeks that followed the fashion event felt like a dream to Ravi. His life, which had once been marked by long days in a small, cramped shop, had now shifted into a whirlwind of new opportunities. The new role at the company came with more responsibilities, more learning, and more challenges. But Ravi was ready. He was ready in a way he had never been before. His new position was a combination of training, designing, and overseeing production. His hands, once accustomed to the steady rhythm of sewing machines and fabric, now guided the work of a small team. Ravi took the responsibility seriously. Every day he would start early and leave late, just as he had when he first learned his craft. The difference now was that he wasn't alone. He had a team of young tailors and designers who looked up to him for guidance. His eyes shone with pride every time he saw them make progress. And he remembered his own journey, how once, someone had believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. As time passed, Ravi's designs continued to impress. The company's new collection was a success, and his name started to appear in fashion magazines and blogs. He would quietly smile when he saw his work featured in articles, but he never let the attention change him. For him, it wasn't about the fame. It was about creating something that mattered, something that made people feel good about themselves when they wore it. One afternoon, after a particularly successful fashion week, Ravi sat in his office looking out the window. The city below seemed to pulse with energy. People were rushing around, cars honking, the distant hum of life continuing. He thought about how far he had come, how he had once stood in a small shop uncertain of his future. He never could have imagined that he would one day be in charge of a team, leading the creation of high-end suits that were worn by influential people. But despite the external success, Ravi still felt a sense of longing. He missed the quiet moments he used to have, working alone in his shop, where the only sound was the hum of his sewing machine and the soft whisper of fabric under his hands. Those moments of solitude had taught him the deepest lessons. The pace of the city, the fame, the praise. It all seemed so far removed from the quiet joy of simply creating something with your hands. One evening, as Ravi was walking home after another long day, he passed by his old shop. The small weathered sign still hung above the door. It seemed so out of place now, so distant from the life he led today. But as he stood there for a moment looking at the door that had once been his world, something inside him stirred. He remembered the long nights of struggling, the mornings filled with hope, the sense of accomplishment every time he finished a piece of work. Ravi walked inside. The shop was just as it had been before, a bit dusty, a little faded, but still full of potential. It felt like coming home. The walls, though old and chipped, seemed to hold the memories of everything he had built. He reached down and touched the old sewing machine, its metal cool to the touch. For a moment, he just stood there, letting the silence fill him. Then he made a decision. He wasn't going to forget where he came from. It was time to give back, to offer the same opportunities to others that had once been offered to him. The next day, Ravi spoke to Mr. Mehta. "I've been thinking," he said. "There are many talented people out there just like I was once. People who have skill but no chance. I want to open a training center, a place where young tailors can learn the craft. I want to teach them the same way I learned." Mr. Mehta looked at him, clearly impressed. "That's a brilliant idea, Ravi. You've always been about more than just the work you create. You've always believed in people. Ravi smiled. I don't want them to struggle like I did. I want them to have a chance to grow. Over the next few months, Ravi worked tirelessly to make his vision a reality. He found a small, quiet space not far from his old shop, where young men and women could learn the art of tailoring. He spent hours designing the curriculum, finding materials, and setting up the workshop. He brought in some of the best tailors he had worked with to help teach, and he personally mentored the students, just as he had once been mentored. The center quickly gained a reputation. Word spread through the community that there was a place where young people could learn the craft of tailoring, where they could find mentors who truly cared about their success. Ravi's story and of struggle, perseverance, and eventual success became an inspiration to the students. They saw in him not just a teacher, but someone who had walked the same difficult path and come out on the other side. One of Ravi's first students was a young man named Akash. He was quiet, reserved, and often seemed unsure of himself. But Ravi saw something in him, the same spark that had once been in his own heart. Akash had talent. All he needed was guidance and encouragement. Ravi took Akash under his wing, teaching him the fine points of tailoring. At first, Akash struggled with the details. His stitches weren't as precise as Ravi's, and his designs were often too complicated for someone so new to the craft. But Ravi was patient, showing him how to take his time and focus on each step. You don't have to rush, Ravi would tell him. Craftsmanship is about attention to detail, not speed. Slowly but surely, Akash began to improve. His work became more confident, more precise. After several months, Ravi gave him a special task: to design a suit for a local businessman who had heard about the training center. Akash worked day and night, his hands trembling as he created his first piece from scratch. When the day came for the businessman to try on the suit, Ravi stood behind Akash, watching nervously. The businessman stepped into the fitting room, and for a moment there was complete silence. Then the businessman smiled and nodded. This is perfect, he said. You have a future in this, young man. Akash looked at Ravi, his eyes wide with disbelief. I did it, he whispered. Ravi nodded. You did, and now it's your turn to teach others. The sense of fulfillment Ravi felt that day was unlike any other. Watching his students grow, helping them find their own paths, gave him a deep sense of peace. He realized that this was the true purpose of his journey. It wasn't just about creating beautiful suits or becoming famous. It was about giving others the chance to shine, the way someone had once given him that same chance. Ravi's life continued to change in ways he had never expected. He continued to design, of course, but his focus had shifted. Now his days were filled with teaching, mentoring, and helping others find their way. His training center grew, and soon it became a well-known part of the city's fashion scene. He had created a legacy, not just of his work, but of his belief in people. As the years passed, Ravi's reputation as a master tailor and a compassionate teacher spread far and wide. He received invitations to speak at conferences, to mentor young designers, and to showcase his work at prestigious fashion events. But no matter how far his success took him, he never forgot his roots. He would often visit his old shop, sitting quietly in the back, just like he had done all those years ago. He would run his fingers over the old fabrics, remembering the long nights of work. And every time he left, he would smile, knowing that he had created something much bigger than a brand or a collection. He had created a space for others to grow just as he had once grown. One evening, as Ravi walked through the city streets, he looked up at the stars. The world was full of noise, full of people running in different directions, chasing after their dreams. But Ravi had found peace in his own journey. He had found fulfillment not in the destination, but in the path itself, in the quiet moments of creating, in the joy of teaching, and in the satisfaction of knowing that he had made a difference. And as he walked home that evening, he knew that his story, the story of a small-town tailor who had once fixed a CEO's suit, had turned into something far greater than he could have ever imagined. It had become a story of giving, of sharing, and of changing lives. And in that he had found the truest success of all.